So the 25-26 championship season is finally upon us. It begins on Friday, so today I'm going to be previewing and predicting the first week of the season. Hopefully this can be a continuing series throughout the season. I'm going to be aiming for more than 2 episodes this season. So without further ado, let's get into it. And we're starting off with probably the biggest game of the week, and it's the opening one. And it's one which, come the end of the season, could be an even bigger game. It's 2 new teams to the season, one's coming up, one's coming down. Birmingham versus Ipswich Town. 2 of the bookies' favourites to go up, and although I do think that Ipswich are a better side and a stronger team with a better manager and tactics, I still think Birmingham will take full advantage of being at home in this opening game. I think that's going to help them a lot, especially in front of the Sky cameras with the story going on at Birmingham. However, I don't think it's going to be enough for them to take all 3 points, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in the opening game of the season. But honestly, I think that's a really tough one to call. I could easily see it going either way. Next up is another newly promoted team at home. It's Charlton versus Watford. And I think once again, the home advantage is just going to really help them. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Charlton. Of course, the same score that Charlton won with in the playoff semi-finals and finals. So the score that they like, we've seen that Nathan Jones can be defensive like that and win by 1 goal. So I think that's going to be something that they're going to try and transfer over to the championship. I see that happening in the opening game. Of course, the Valley's going to be bouncing, and Charlton seem to be a much more stable club now after years of turbulence in League One. The new signing should hopefully start to click now with the already well-gelled side, as opposed to Watford, who, with a new unproven manager in Pezzolano, will definitely need some time to settle in. But given this is Watford, you wonder just how many losses before he gets the sack. Then it's Coventry who host Hull at the CBS Arena, and Frank Lampard's Coventry will be looking to bounce back and improve from the late playoff heartache from last season. And I think this will be a pretty comfortable 2-0 win for Coventry. Things are looking really problematic at Hull at the top, and I think that's sort of being overlooked given everything that's going on at Sheffield Wednesday, but Hull have some similar problems with stability at the top, and I think it's going to result in a tough season and a tough opening game too. So I'm going to go for a Coventry 2-0 win. Then, just like the opening game, it's Southampton Wrexham, another newly promoted side versus a newly relegated side. And I think if this was in Wales, it would probably be a different story, but given that Southampton have the home advantage, I think they're going to be too strong for Wrexham. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Saints win. Will still may need some time to adapt it, but regardless, that squad is too good for Wrexham to be beating. Players like Downs, Fernandez, Charles, Dibbling, Armstrong, Archer, there's going to be no short of goals this season, that's for sure. And yeah, I think they're going to be too much for Wrexham to handle. Then up north, Middlesbrough welcome Swansea to the Riversides in what I think will be an interesting clash, because both sides have some real unknown quantities going into this season. Alan Sheehan, although did really well as a caretaker last season, is still unproven as a full-time manager, and Rob Edwards needs to prove himself after last season's failures and prove that he's a top manager in this division. And I think that Borough squad is still really short of what they need, especially if they want to play Edwards' way. I think it's still suited for Carrick's style. I think this could end in failure, not just in this game, but in the season as a whole. And I think it will definitely take some time for Edwards to work his magic, if he does at all. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, which I think is actually quite generous to Borough, but I'm going to say the home advantage is going to help them to a point. Then 2 teams who are definitely in the conversation for the playoffs this season. It's Norwich versus Millwall. I think this one's going to be a close affair, but 2 factors make me lean slightly more towards a Norwich win. And that is, first of all, the home advantage, and also Josh Sargent is still at the club at the time of recording. And simply put, he's a match winner. He knows how to find the back of the net, and I could see him getting the match run in this one. So that's why I'm going to go for a 1-0 home win. Then it's the John Messino derby, Oxford versus my team, Pompey. I think this is going to be a close call, especially with Colby Bishop expected to miss this one with injury. However, Waddingham has impressed in pre-season. Sure, they've not been playing the strongest of sides, but still. And I think the importance of winning our first away game, and just away games in general this season, is going to be one of the top priorities for John Messina and the club, because our away form last season was absolutely dreadful, and if we had won some of those away games, we could have pushed up to much higher in the table. So although I think the draw is the sensible call here, and the one that most people will think, last season, opening day, I said we'd lose to Leeds, and I regretted it, not backing my own team, so whatever, I'm going to say Pompey 1-0 win of the Blues, come on. Then in the capital, QPR host Preston North End. Julian Stefan has got a lot to prove in English football, and although QPR have struggled for goals last season, the smart additions like Kwame Poku mean that I think that can really improve this season. So I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 Rangers win, especially because Preston are off the back of a terrible fall-off at the end of last season with 3 points from the final 8. And I think things look like a real mess at Preston at the moment, especially regarding creativity through the middle, so I think this is going to end in a loss for them. Stoke derby next, and although Stoke have home advantage, historically Mark Robins usually starts seasons pretty poorly, especially the last 2 seasons. Having said that, I also think Derby may take some time to get going this season with the new additions like Morris, Vyman and Ajiman, so I think I'm going to go for a boring 0-0 in this one. I think it's going to be a close, tight match. Next up is West Brom versus Blackburn, and although I do like West Brom, and although I do think West Brom have the stronger side, this is Ryan Mason's first game in charge, not only at West Brom, not only as a championship manager, but as a permanent manager. So growing pains are expected, and while I don't think they'll lose, I do expect a little bump in the road. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. As for Blackburn, I think going into this one, I don't think their transfer window has been ideal on what fans would have been hoping for. So yeah, 1-1 draw here. Then 2 teams who finished in last season's playoffs and of course played each other in the semi-finals, which Sheffield United won comfortably. It is Sheffield United versus Bristol City, and I see this being pretty similar based on that semi-final. Although both teams have new managers, I think I can see Sellers being able to enforce his style much quicker than Struber at Bristol City, as I think the Sheffield United squad is more suited to his style. Having said that, the defence is looking pretty thin at the moment, so I can see Bristol City scoring, so for that reason I'm going to go for a 2-1 United win. Then finally, Leicester City face Sheffield Wednesday, and this could be one looking like a cricket score after 90 minutes. It's tough, obviously due to the situation going on at Wednesday. A really thin weak squad compared to the abundance of top and championship level talent the hosts have. It's an impossible challenge for Wednesday. Obviously, what is there to say about them that hasn't been said already? It's a disaster. It's impossible. I'm going to go for a 4-0 Leicester City win, and I'm going to be honest, that's being a bit generous to Wednesday. Hopefully that can get sorted out soon, so every week won't be that sort of scoreline. So there you have it. Thanks very much for watching. In the description you can copy and paste all the scores and give your predictions. Play along at home. I'm going to be doing like a little scoring system. 3 points for the exact correct score, 1 point for the correct outcome, and obviously 0 points if I don't get it right. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video when the championship season is underway. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.